positive attitude and intelligence.
Nick is off the wall. Nick is a little bit more experimental. He needs to feel pain to be good, I think. I think he likes the pain and agony and the turmoil and like, oh God, this is terrible and I can't be funny today.
The Rock was a smash hit. Now that Nicholas had nailed the action genre, scripts were flying in. In 1997, the buffed-up 33-year-old played the newly released ex-con and former Army Ranger trapped on a prisoner transport plane. As a Jerry Bruckheimer production, the movie was sure to be an action-packed ride.
Well, Nick is a brilliant actor, and, fortunately he won an Academy Award, so it's just not me just saying it. The Academy agrees with me. And, Nick is an actor that I want to work with again and again.
We just have a nice, natural film chemistry. I don't try to get too analytical about it because it works, so we basically leave it alone and let the creative process flow.
Wild and full of real action, Cage was not just smoke and mirrors.
I'm used to doing mostly, what you might call art films. And when I started doing action movies, I realized that you have to think about that gun over there shooting blanks and that wall of flame over there, and you have to act at the same time. So I learned quick that you've got to keep your wits about you.
Coming up, Nicolas Cage goes to jail.
I was on the yard with 3,000 hardened killers, and that's a weird feeling.
Nicholas found the perfect director and co-star to round out an action genre trilogy.
I've been a big fan of John Woo, and I really thought Travolta was terrific in Pulp Fiction, so I've been wanting to work with these guys for a while.
The experience was everything Nicholas had hoped for.
Face Off was a joy to work on. I mean, it was a very playful experience. John Travolta is somebody that really captures the spirit of acting in the funnest sense. And we just had a good time working together.
And as he promised, Nicholas totally changed course again in his next film, City of Angels. He played an angel who falls in love with a human woman played by Meg Ryan. Researching the part proved to be a challenge.
I had to read books. I couldn't really prepare the way I would normally like to. You can't call an angel up, and say, what's it like? One of the things that I came across was that by some definition, all angels are terrifying, which I thought was interesting. Normally we see the angel played as this sort of singing, golden light character, and I thought that this would be a chance to play as something a little more eerie, give it some complexity.
And director Brad Silberling found that Nick had the unique qualities to make the character Seth come to life.
I felt when I was reading the script the first time and every time subsequently that we really needed somebody with the strength of a silent film star. So much of the Seth character that we meet is without words. I'd always admired Nick's work, but I sat down with him. What I saw in his eyes was remarkable. I mean, he was able to convey so much without opening his mouth. So he was sort of the perfect choice. I can't imagine it out of anybody else.
The movie was a hit, but always restless for something new. That same year, Nicholas tried his hand as a shady police detective in Brian De Palma's Snake Eyes.
With City of Angels, I was more reserved. So by the time I got to Snake Eyes, I was excited to go. I wanted to get out of my, tight jacket and just explode. The background is that it's fight night, and there is an undeniable energy in a boxing match that's in the air, and so I wanted to really get that across in the first 20 minutes. Lock the door!
Although their marriage was reportedly rocky, in 1999, master director Martin Scorsese cast the couple in a dark drama, Bringing Out the Dead.
I've been wanting to work with Scorsese he's one of the reasons why I became an actor.
Nicholas recognizes that there is a setback to having appeared in so many action pictures.
The only thing I'm trying to look at is that people do not get confused by it. That this is Bringing Out the Dead, and there's Nick, and he looks like a paramedic. It must be an action film about ambulances. And then they go and they see it, and it's really kind of a harrowing examination of the sadness of living with loss.
And in 2000, Nicholas jumped back into action as a master car thief in Gone in 60 Seconds.
Oh, Nick's great. Nick's a really good guy, and he's a buddy. You know, we get the giggles all the time, and he's just fun.
Working on such material requires highly specialized training.
I mean, I like to drive. I like to drive fast. I like to have an opportunity to do something that I sincerely enjoy, and to do it in a way where I'm getting paid for it is even better. I just wanted to make sure I didn't destroy any of the cameras that were mounted on the car. There were like $500,000 or $400,000 cameras, and if I'd taken one of those out, that would have been pretty humiliating.
Nicholas and Patricia's marriage was falling apart, which wasn't really surprising because 5 years ago, when they'd actually got married, they hardly knew each other.
When you come from an unstable family structure, then frequently, as you mature, you may be looking for that. And when you meet a new person, you may want to lock that into something like a marriage, a relationship, when really what you're trying to do is recreate some structure from your childhood.
Nicholas filed divorce papers in 2000, only to retract them. He then filed again a few months later, and the couple were finally divorced in May 2001. But Nicholas had already set his sights on someone else, the beautiful Luther Marie Presley. Anyway, after a tempestuous relationship, the two remarried on August 7th, 2002. Rumour has it that Lisa Marie was not too pleased that her husband was spending so much time with her son, being actually a devoted dad. Rumour also has it that he wasn't pleased that she persuaded him to sell some of his prized vintage cars and his precious comic book collection. He turned that netted $1.5 million. The two split up 107th days after their wedding date.
In the meantime, the 2002 John Woo period piece Wind Talkers opened with much fanfare. The film told the story of an army sergeant ordered to protect a Navajo code talker.
Alright, we go, and act.
I have nothing but incredible respect for Indian culture and the Navajos and what they did in the war. That people know about this is important to me.
Actor Christian Slater also played Sergeant Ox Henderson in the film.
Nick Cage is great. I mean, he's just always been somebody I have admired as an actor and always wanted to do something with. I mean, he's just, he makes unique, interesting choices and just really, I think, learned a lot from him and found him to be very spiritual, really just had a great vibe.
In spite of their good experience on the set and the interesting material, the film tanked at the box office. It seemed to be following Nicholas's private emotions at the time. But it wasn't long before the dedicated actor found refuge in another meaningful and edgy independent film.
I'm about to embark on a picture with Spike Jones, a picture called Adaptation, which I think is still very much that oeuvre. So I'm trying to just keep changing it up.
In the independent film Adaptation, Nicholas played a tormented screenwriter facing writer's block and his bon vivant identical twin brother. Once again, he blew away the Academy. Nicolas Cage was nominated for an Oscar for Best Actor in 2 leading roles. Nicholas's reaction to his Oscar nods continue to be practical and hopeful.
I hope what the Oscar will give me is that 5 extra seconds of thought before someone says no.
With hardly a moment to catch his breath, Nicholas was back on the set playing a phobic con artist in Ridley Scott's Matchstick Men.
I've always wanted to work with Ridley Scott. I've admired his movies for a very long time, and I've felt that he has an original vision. It gave me an opportunity to hopefully learn something by studying or observing a maestro at work.
Next came the fun adventure romp National Treasure, in which Nicholas starred as Ben Gates' treasure hunter. The film was received with warm reviews.
Nick's personal life was also warming up. In February 2004, he reportedly met Korean Alice Kim at a club called Bazzi. The impulsive romantic was smitten with the lovely Alice and began frequenting the upmarket, upscale sushi bar where she worked as a waitress and hostess. Then one night he presented her with a diamond. 2 months after his divorce was final and less than 6 months after he'd begun dating Alice, the couple were married in July 2004 in a private ceremony in Northern California. While making The Weatherman in early 2005, again Nicholas drew on the method and went deeply into the painful divorces and separations he'd been through to play Dave Spritz, the hapless weatherman who had also separated from his wife in the film.
I was going through a divorce at the time, and I was using that well of feeling, that emotion, that wasn't positive. It was bringing me down, and I didn't want to succumb to it. So when I read this script, I thought, I can do this. Let me take that feeling and put it in there. I won't have to act, and it'll be real, and I'll do something constructive rather than destructive.
In fact, Nicholas was very constructive at the time. His wife, Alice Kim, became pregnant in early 2005 and gave birth to a baby boy on October 3rd. In an homage to his long-held love of comic books, Nicholas named his new son Kal-El, Superman's birth name, on planet Krypton. The second-time father compares fame to fatherhood.
It's kind of like parenthood in that nobody can really prepare you for it. This is great, but then you realize the huge responsibility of that.
Nicolas Cage certainly appreciates all the opportunities his life as an actor has given him.
I've been very happy with the way things have turned out, and I can't complain. I mean, basically, the movie career has given me a lot of ability to do things I probably wouldn't have been able to do, so I'm happy.